And a quick answer for competition, and we'll open it up. So the thing with competition is, if you're doing something like Michael Dell is doing and nobody is considering it or whatever, you're doing what you can do, right? You're only doing what is within your control, and you're working with people who are putting skin in the game. So long as you have enough number of people paying you enough to do business, what do you care about competition? But the interesting thing is, a lot of entrepreneurs will partner with their competitors. So as the market starts forming and they start clearing, they'll say, you know what, that company is kicking my butt. Let me go actually try to partner with that company, or I'll sell my company to them, or I'll just I'll go work for them or whatever. And similarly, they will actually, so they're always, in fact, a lot of entrepreneurs, in fact, when we talked about funding, we talked about customers, suppliers, employees. You will be surprised the number of firms that get their funding actually from competitors. In fact, I tell my students, the first partner you should try to bring on in the Crazy Quilt, go talk to the company that is probably going to be your biggest competitor. Especially if it's a middle-sized or large-sized company, if it's a stable, large company, I'll say, go talk to them first. Because you are trying to put them out of business, give them the option to buy into you day one. And so companies have been started. So just think about it, even in large companies, right? If Apple gets into trouble, Bill Gates bails them out, and vice versa, right? Why do they do that? Because good competition is good for everybody. It lifts all the boats. It is a bad competition that you want to keep out. The people who are either trying to do something, not ethical, or they're selling really bad products, so people get really suspicious of all the products in the space, stuff like that, then you should go to your competitors who are doing well and really try to get that person out of the market. That's what you really want to do. So to put it in a very short, provocative way, I always joke about it and say, entrepreneurs are the mini Marxists who make the free markets work, right? So entrepreneurs are always thinking Crazy Quilt and partnering, and they are not worrying too much about competition until you grow so large that, of course, then the industry is formed, the market is formed, it becomes predictable. Then you will get a couple of really big competitors. But by that time, you are not easy to squash. So, and even if you're easy to squash, you have stable stakeholders, and you can change, and you can do other stuff. You can always sell your company too. All right. So let's take the in-person or the voice calls, Kesava. I am going to trust you guys to call on people, and I'll do my best to answer. And then Prasanna can continue to keep an eye on the Q&A board. We'll proceed it that way. Kesava can do hands, Prasanna do Q&A board, and I'll try my best to give my 2 cents.
I am lowering everybody's hands. Now you can raise your hands if you ask the question. Okay, Prabhu. Prabhu, you can ask your question.
Hi, this is Prabhu here from freshtocook.com. .in, sorry.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, I have heard a lot of speech about you in IIM Bangalore. My question is, see, how does this agri-based startups do after corona virus scare in India?
So you are asking somebody who's teaching you effectuation, non-predictive control, to tell you what will happen in agribusiness in India? You know I'm not going to fall for that one, right? But the thing you want to ask yourself is not what will happen to agribusiness. So think about the fact of the matter is, that is one business that is never going to go out of business, right? We are going to need food no matter what. And probably a lot of people have hoarded a lot of food, and there's going to be like way more food. So the way you want to think about any business in this thing is, you want to think about changes that are coming at you, and what are you going to do about it, which is like the lemonade principle. And what you want to do is, you want to ask yourself, what is it that you can do today? Let's say you are an agribusiness and you don't know what's going to happen 3 months from now. You want to ask yourself, what can you do today that you couldn't do before? I even say this And I say this with, even though my heart is with everybody, especially the poorer people who are probably going to die, our relatives who are going to die. I have a lot of, with all my heart and keeping this in mind, I still tell people, you have to ask yourself, yeah, all of that is going to be possible. We are all going to go through misery in one way or the other. But thank you, COVID. What can I do now with COVID that I couldn't do before? So you have to have the sensitivity, the empathy and everything. But we also have to ask ourselves, that is how, as human beings, that is the only way to face misery, right? Like the Buddha teaches us, misery is normal. And so what we have to say is, yes, and I'm going to do whatever I can to deal with that. But I also have to ask myself, thanks to this problem, what can we do now that we couldn't do before? Don't worry about all the things we cannot do now, right? Sure, that has happened to us. We didn't have control over that. So you want to ask, what can I do now that I couldn't do before? What can you do now that we couldn't do before? What can I do for you now that I have time and I have the mind space to think about it? So we have to think about all of those things. But most importantly, remember the pilot in the plane principle. This is an opportunity for all of us to shape what's coming. So I would say, give a little bit of thought to what will happen. Ask yourself, what do you want to happen? What do you want? Here, this is a moment for change. We can change laws. We can change institutions. We can change our entire lives. We can change our personality. I mean, this is a moment for enormous change in the world. So you can so this change has happened to us. The next change, you can either treat it as something that happens to us, or you can say, how do I shape this? How do I play into it? Let me see what's going on. What can I do? What can I do for affordable laws? Who else can I bring on board? Who else wants to do something? Who is doing something wonderful here already? And how can I go in and be a part of that wonderful thing that somebody is doing? Whether it's for-profit, non-profit, any other kind of a thing. Maybe here's a chance for you to run for office. All of that should be, you should be willing and open to consider anything and everything that's actually doable and worth doing. But most importantly, grief is one thing, loss is one thing, a scarcity mentality is one thing. But the only thing that's going to get us out of this here is if you combine that empathy, combine that sympathy with what can I do? What can you do? What can we do? But most importantly, we should see this as an opportunity to shape and build a better future for ourselves and for everybody else around us.
Okay, and next is Nidhi Chawla.
Hi, thanks, Keshav. Thanks, Doctor. That was a very, very useful talk and very uplifting also in many ways. So I think you covered a part of my question when you answered this question around, how do we use this whole COVID scenario and use this opportunity to co-create and learn new things. My question, however, right now is more practical. When you are in a startup phase where, your working capital may not be very long lasting. And, so for example, I work in the senior care space, and seniors are being the vulnerable lot. I don't know when they will be out and about to, restart my business the way it was. We have been identifying new ways, but then we are cash strapped. I need to pay my employees. So for many organizations where, the cash income has become completely to a standstill, what would be your, advice for them?
I think I mentioned this earlier, but don't think that it's all on you and that you have to go back to the way it was, right? All these words are actually constraints you are putting on yourself. Ask your employees, right? If you don't have cash and you fire them, how are they going to manage? Right? They're going to do something to survive, right? So you want to look at people as not passengers in your plane. They're all co-pilots. We're building and flying this plane together. And so the way you want to ask is literally sit them down and ask, I don't have cash, but I know you need, what can we do? Maybe you're going to give them rice for a while if they're really poor employees. I don't know what kind of employees you have. And the same thing with the senior care. If you're in that business, don't go back to just the way things were. You really have to think, what can you do differently? Because it's a great opportunity. But if you always think, how can I get back to that? It just limits your the possibilities that you do see. So if you talk to people and you say, what can we do now? What are you doing? How are you managing? How can we manage? You know, reach out to everybody, reach out to your relatives, reach out to non-profits, reach out to the government, whatever, if it is a cash crunch. But because most of the cash is going to go towards people, and people are not some kind of helpless patients. My mother is 90 years old. Let me tell you, even at 90, and she is in India in a 24-hour care facility, and I worry about her all the time. But the fact is, she is way more of an agent. She is capable of doing stuff. These are survivors. See them as survivors. Don't see senior citizens as people that are waiting for you to help them. These are people who made it to their 80s or whatever, right? They have seen stuff and done stuff and been through stuff that you and I have never seen. We are wimps compared to them. So the first thing is, see every single person as a co-creator, as a potential investor, as somebody you're going to shape the future with, but they are going to shape the future with you as well. And that mentality is the first step. And after that, is it still going to be that there are going to be cash crunchers? There are going to be people, yeah, sure. But if you have this attitude, you're likely to see different choices, different possibilities, than if you just go in and think, oh my God, I have this problem and I have that problem, and how do I deal with that problem? And that's what I'm trying to get to. 99% of the worst problems in the world have to do with human suffering. But human beings are amazingly resilient, and you can bring them on board. I cannot tell you the number of people I have seen in really difficult circumstances, and I have actually been through stuff. It's a conversation for another day, and I'm always shocked at how resilient human beings actually are. And that resilience is our strength, but it's everybody else's resilience is our strength too.
Next is Satish Kumar.
Yeah, can you hear me, sir?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Professor, for such a wonderful session. Okay, so this is regarding a co-founder. So I'm keep on hearing that when you are operating a startup in a small level and having a team like only 10 to 15 members, it is easy for a single founder. But once you have an opportunity to scale it up, let's say you are going to have a team of 100 members, then it is mandatory to have a co-founder, because a single man cannot handle such a big team and such a scale-up process. So what's your point of view on that, ma'am?
So I might surprise you. I don't necessarily see why you need more than one person to handle 100. I also don't see why you think one person is enough to handle 15. Because the first thing is, I don't want you to handle anything or anybody. The way you want to think about it is to say there are huge advantages to having a co-founder, right? No matter what. And we have good data that shows that a large part of successful companies are started by co-founding teams and not by a single entrepreneur. Or even if a single entrepreneur starts, very quickly they bring on other people one way or the other, and then you will have like true co-founders who start very early, but you'll also bring on other people who have equity stake in the company, right? So you're always going to have multiple people. So I don't think you need to worry about it. It's not. So I also know, in fact, there's a Darden alum who's running a $5 billion company, and even though he had a co-founder very early on, his co-founder passed away, and he's leading the company. He doesn't have a co-founder per se, but he's got multiple people who have stock in the company, and all the employees, including the receptionist, have stock options in the company. So there are multiple ways you can think about this. Well, the first thing you want is emotional ownership from everybody. So if you just think it's all on you, I'm the leader, these are the passengers on the plane, or then you are going to build a different kind of culture. Yeah, it still matters that it is your company and you have the responsibilities to make sure everybody is okay and the company does well. So see it as a responsibility more than anything else. And the only way you can do is, even to raise 2 kids, we need like two spouses, right, in a partnership. We know that it's much more difficult to raise it when you're a single parent. Why would a company be any more easy? Because you have many more responsibilities in some ways in a company, and then your responsibilities in some ways never end. So my question is, you want to think about co-founding and ownership in a broader way on the one hand. It's not whether you have an actual co-founder, like defined as a co-founder, but you need to have multiple people who have ownership, and ownership means responsibility, not only rewards. And you need that anyway. So whether it's a co-founder or whether you have a great executive team to manage or whatever, you're going to need multiple people. Otherwise, you're not going to grow in the first place. So it's not like up to 100 and after 100. I would say day one, start thinking about it. And then whether it's officially a co-founder or not doesn't matter.
Yeah. Next is Vijay Sarasvathy. I think maybe.
Go ahead, Vijaya.
Hello, ma'am. I'm so glad that I share your second name, Saraswati.
I'm glad too.
I thought both of you are relatives.
Hopefully, I would be the happiest to be ma'am's relative. Ma'am, my question.
You officially, you can be in my family from this moment.
Love you, ma'am. Love you so much. God bless you. It takes a big heart to say that. And, COVID-19 has taught us that only the Vasudeva Kutumbakam. The whole world is our family.
Yeah. What's your question, Vijaya?
Absolutely.
Yeah, my question is, ma'am, when we are here to create co-creators, initially we feel that they are matching with our vision. They're having a same kind of tendency like us. But over a period of time, we realize that they are more inclined to money or whatever. Maybe a different the thought process is not matching. How do we break this partnership without hurting each other's ego or emotional challenges? How do we do this, ma'am? Especially with women, I think it is very difficult to, say that.
Okay. I'm going to give you a quick answer, and hopefully following workshops can do a deeper dive into it. So my quick answer is, I'm a true romantic. I believe in prenups. If you cannot have this conversation in the very early stages, what do you really want? What happens if I find that you are doing something I don't like? What happens if you find that I don't like? How will we dissolve this? How will we call each other out on things that we are doing right versus wrong? And so all of that, you have to have a prenuptial contract in place on how it's not only about who owns 50% of the company or 70% of the company. It's truly about this emotional ownership. So I tell people, be a true romantic, be open to discussing this day one, right? Very early in the partnership, have uncomfortable conversations. More importantly, set up a process that every 3 months or every 6 months, you can actually take a day out and have uncomfortable conversations. And you know that ahead of time, right? And then the second thing I tell is, now be a good parent. The way to resolve all these things is, it cannot be about your money. It cannot be about your vision. It cannot be even about your passion. It cannot be about my money. It cannot be about my passion. It's always about the health of the baby. The venture is the baby. So the way you always ask yourself, does this make sense for the venture? What have we already agreed as the health of the baby? Have we agreed on rate of return? Have we agreed on number of customers served? Like whatever you get to define, like what this baby is. But once you have agreed on that, that should drive all decisions. It's the health of the baby that drives every decision. It doesn't matter whether you are making money or if your ego is hurt. And same way, it doesn't matter if my ego is hurt. If you think I am harming the company, call me out on it. And also buy some shares from a part. You own the company better and run it better. So the only argument we have is it good for the company or not? More importantly, how do we make it good for the company, given that you and I differ on some ideas about how to make it for the health, what is healthy for the baby, right? And then you can say things like, you know what, you have idea X, I have idea Y, and we both think this is best for the company. So now let's try it out for affordable loss and let the data tell us which one is correct. Let's try both of them, but only for affordable loss. And so you have to put these mechanisms in place to make the partnership work, but the first thing you have to do is be ready to have uncomfortable conversations. I have seen great co-founders literally come to blows with each other. I have seen people crying but they at least they have a system. Every 3 months they're going to take one day, they're going to do it. They're going to cry or they're going to shout or whatever, and then they're going to come to some decisions, and the next 3 months or whatever, everybody is just going to implement the decision. They're not going to do this all the time. So you have to have these things in place to make a good relationship work. And by the way, the secret, that's also a great way to do any relationship, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Sure. Shivani, next is Shivani.
Hello.
Yeah, Shivani. Please
Yes,
go.
Shivani, go
Hello.
ahead.
Good evening, ma'am. I am from Mathura, and I have one question: that how can we convince to be any investor to invest in our company?
So if you are going around convincing investors to invest, you are in trouble, right?
No, this is startup.
Yeah, but all you do is to say, what do I need to do for you to invest? Remember the framework I showed you? You literally go and ask them, yeah, sure, there is no need for you to invest. You have to ask them, what do I need to do to make it worthwhile for you to invest? So that way they have to think with you, and they have to tell you, okay, if you get 70 customers on board, if you get this, if you get that, then I will invest, right? You're not asking them, it is not your job to convince them to invest. Because if you're doing that, then it is all, you're completely given up control, right? It is all up to them, whether they're going to invest or not. The whole point is, as I showed you in the data, most great companies do not need investment. So Prasanna has a very good way. He took these ideas and Prasanna came up with a lovely exercise, which I love. He says, okay, how much money do you need? So if you say, I need 20 crores, he will say, let's assume you got 20 crores. Give me your shopping list for the 20 crores, right? So you will write, what are you going to do with the 20 crores? And you will see 99% of that, you're going to pay someone to do something. You're going to hire a salesperson, or you're going to hire a designer, or you're going to hire a CTO. And the effectual answer is, you don't need money to hire anybody. Go and ask them, please do the coding for me. Maybe they will not be coding 40 hours or 60 hours a week for you. They will say, okay. But whoever actually is willing to spend nights and weekends coding for you, those are the only ones who will come code for you. The same with sales, same with design, same with everything. So do it the hard way, because the ones who want to work with you will want you to change your idea as well. And that is very important, because it is through that you end up coming up with an idea that actually is very successful. You yourself very rarely, almost never will come up with an idea that's actually going to be very successful. So it's not about convincing investors. It's about convincing the people that you actually have to bring on board, for which you're asking for money. So think about it this way. Money is the ultimate middleman. Get rid of it. You can get rid of it by literally getting what the money would buy, except you don't need to buy it. You get it through skin in the game from people. Yes, it will take longer. Yes, it will be harder, but it'll be better in the longer run. And it's not all that easy anyway, right? Because investors are not investing. The time to take money is when investors are calling on you. The time to take money is when you don't need it, and then behave as if you don't have it. That's all I have to say about investment. Prasanna, thank you for the exercise. I've just made it my own, and I tell this exercise to everybody. But I make sure I tell you it's your exercise.
Thank you.
Yeah, next is Priyadarshi. Priyadarshi,
you're still muted. Unmute and then
Okay.
speak.
Am I audible?
yeah.
Hi.
Yes.
Ma'am, this is Priyadarshi. And under my belt, there have been 3 failed startups. And this is the 4th startup that I'm running. So most of the time what the problem is happening, 2 of the startups I had faced issue with the founders, co-founders. Basically, I never take co-founders from my friends, But this is in my last startup, I have taken co-founder from my close friends. So it's stable till the last 2 years, 2.5 years. Earlier, I used to find out who are the right person or a technically qualified person who can support me.
Yeah.
And most of the time, our startup grows like anything, leaps and bounds very fast. And at some point of time, it gets break up due to
Yeah.
co-founding issue only. Founders, either the founders used to move and start a next startup, or else somewhere they get an good opportunity. And most time I used to choose some guys who are just freshers, like 1 year experience after BTech. Most of the time I used to target those kind of guys who are not yet matured, but they have the energy to do.
Yeah.
So
You're learning the lessons of the expert entrepreneurs, that you have to choose co-founders first, and not people who can just based on job descriptions. You have to find people who actually want to work with you and work well with you, and then you can figure out what product to build or what service.
And ma'am, the beauty is that after this thing happens, means we used to have a breakup, the tough fight, then everything settled. I just keep it down. Okay, fine, it's done. Let's move to the next level. After 7-8 months or 1 year, those persons again used to return back to me. Now what to do? My question is that.
Oh, so they're coming back and they want to be part of your venture, is it?
Yes, because they used to tell me that your vision is such a big vision that we are not able. I had 2 entrepreneurs who are earning they have a turnover of 1 crore right now in Pune. And when we are building one startup, I was said, okay, I have to make it 50 crore in 3 years.
You can make a simple deal with them that they have to earn their equity.
Super.
That every time they actually do something for the venture and they can show that they're adding to the top line and the bottom line, then they get equity. That's simple as that. So you don't have to give equity upfront. That's it. That's the answer.
Super. Yep. Ma'am, there is a second question. Can I ask you?
Priyadarshi, there are a lot of people out there.
Okay. Please.
Mahak Wadhwa.
Thank you so much, Keshav, for opening the line. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yep.
Hello, Professor.
Yes.
How are you?
Very good. So far, so good. I always say that, even in good times, even more so now. Yeah.
My name is Mahak. I have just started on working on a company that I would like to build in future. So although it's at a very initial stage, but my question is that I've heard a lot of people saying that before you start your business, it's better to plan an exit plan. And until and unless you do not know how things will turn up in future, how can you plan an exit plan? So I want to understand from you whether it's a valid thing to do and how you can actually do that.
Good question. Yeah, sure. Who is asking for exit plans? It's usually investors who ask for it, or people who work with investors who tell you, oh, you have to have an exit strategy, otherwise nobody will invest, right? Sure, my question is, you're living in an unpredictable world. We all are. COVID only makes you see it, that we are living in. But in actual fact, we always are living in an unpredictable world, which is what the entrepreneurs are learning. So they will say, yeah, sure, you can have an exit plan, but God forbid you think it's a plan. Right? You can have an exit strategy. You can have 7 different exit strategy depending on if this happens, and if that happens, and if something else happens. But the fact of the matter is that's easy to do. But having an exit plan by itself is not going to get you to any positive exit, right? That's also a fact. In fact, Mike O'Donnell, who has started 22 companies, he always says that when investors are always asking exit, he says, that's such a dumb question. So I just tell them, okay, here's my exit plan. You are going to make a boatload of money, right? Provided you give me some now. That's my exit plan. But you're right. Sometimes it's just a conversational thing. People just want to see how you're thinking about it. So no harm in crafting some exit plans. You can think, if it grows to this much, I will sell it to X, Y, and Z company. There's no harm in building these plans, but don't start thinking that they are plans. And so now you have to deliver on that. That's where everything goes crazy, because then you don't see any of the 1,000 other opportunities that are coming at you. But you might want to think about exit in a slightly different way, in an affordable loss way. In the sense, you might want to say, I'm willing to invest this much time, maybe this much money, this much emotion, whatever. And at the end of that, I'm going to revisit my decision, right? because you also don't want to keep on trying something for so long that you will invest your entire life. At the end of the day, we do have one resource that can never be stretched, and that is time. So from an affordable loss perspective, for your own purpose, you can set your limits. You can say, if X, Y, and Z doesn't happen in so and so time, I am going to seriously consider quitting the venture and doing something else, or maybe doing a different venture or something. You can do that. That might be useful, but it's not really an exit plan, right? It's not the kind of thing that investors are asking for, exit strategy. By that, they mean, am I going to go IPO? Am I going to sell? Stuff like that. So
not exactly that. So I haven't approached any investor as of now. So by exit plan, I meant that you can't be always doing micromanagement. You can't be involved in day-to-day activities every time. So you'll have to plan an exit where you can be disinvolved, although you will be a part of the business, but still disinvolved and focus on other important
this
things.
was easy. Are Baba, why are you micromanaging in the first place?
Not
that
exactly.
Is not useful even on day one.
Involved in day-to-day activities.
So you always want to, it's again, go back to the baby analogy. There are times when you have to be there for the baby, you have to do stuff. But the whole point of having a baby is to create a baby that's independent and lives a good life and actually is of some value in the world, right? Your entire aim, day one, is to create a healthy, productive, independent, value producing creature in the world. And that's what you're doing with the venture too. So yeah, sure, there are times when you're, even after you have this kind of exit, right, where other people are running the company, you have delegated, and even then you have to, maybe sometimes you have to come back in and help out, and that's fine, because you have to be there for the venture. So this one is not an exit plan. This is kind of something that you have to build into the culture and think about all the time. That's why you're getting good people to self-select, right, who can help you and do this. So I think Prasanna wants to say something. He came in there, but why don't I give this to Prasanna? He has more experience with real entrepreneurs on this. Go for it.
So in both cases, right, whether you are trying to step away from what you're calling the day-to-day work of the business, or if you're actually exiting the business through a M&A or whatever, the most likely people who are going to take it on and continue to grow the baby are your stakeholders, your existing stakeholders. So the best way to do it is to pick good stakeholders and treat them really, really, really well, so that when the time comes, you know them and you trust them and they're ready to take the baby and work with the baby. It's very unlikely that somebody magical is going to walk through the door and then take this baby and grow it, right? So if you're good to your stakeholders and if you have good stakeholders, then you're always going to be figuring out what next should the baby do. And as an entrepreneur, you'll find that that's very, that's something that you might be interested in, saying, hey, I want to figure out what the baby should do next, and how do I help the baby do next. Or you might be a kind of an entrepreneur who's saying, look, I want to be involved with the baby on a day-to-day basis to make sure what's going on. But either way, the answer is, to me, is very similar. Get the right stakeholders, work with them, make sure that they are happy with this relationship, you are happy with them, you can trust them. And then somebody is going to say, hey, look, why are you involved with this day-to-day? Why don't you go get lost and find something new to do, and we'll grow this.
Okay. And I just want to add one data point to it. Know that building a decent venture that is capable of enduring and succeeding takes 8 to 10 years. It's so when you start a venture, you don't expect to do this in 3 to 5 years. That is just a wrong number. 8 to 11 is much more like it. So know that ahead of time. And if you can't afford 8 to 11 years of some kind of involvement in the venture, maybe you shouldn't be going for the venture in the first place.
Okay, Saras, last 3 questions. Okay, Bhagavati Yadav, can you go?
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Kesav. Hello, ma'am. This is Bhagavati, and we run a venture by the name of Prof Healthcare Services. And at the moment, like you've said, we've been hearing from your talk, we're trying to take our services online and make our losses more affordable. But had this situation of COVID-19 not cropped up, we had plans to go ahead and develop a bit into making our entire service very tech-enabled. So this was our time, which was going to be dedicated to make it tech-enabled. So is this the right time to still go ahead and invest and do invest into making this tech enabled, or should we just wait looking at how uncertain the situation is?
You do know the situation was uncertain, right? A month
Yes.
ago. You
Yes.
just didn't know it. That's the whole point. That's a
No,
very definition of uncertainty.
Yeah.
So
I don't know how long this uncertainty is going to continue. So is this
forever? Just
Mm.
embrace it, right? This uncertainty may not continue, but some other uncertainty is waiting in the wings. So there is no time like the present to, if there are things you can do now, go ahead and do it. But don't overinvest thinking that what you're doing now will pay, right? Do it in an affordable loss way so that it can do multiple things. I want to give this again to Prasanna because Prasanna came on.
So this is literally what we've been running as a war room kind of an exercise in the last 4-5 weeks for the 48 founders that we've been working with. And this is what, where we want to run for you folks, at least some of you folks, Kesava can do that. But I'll give you one way of thinking about it, right?
Yes.
Have you seen Matrix?
No, I'm not really a fan of all.
So if you see the movie, right, there's a moment when the world changes.
Yes.
So the world has changed.
Yeah.
So typically, a lot of us operate on rules that we've learned in the past by things that have happened, right?
Yes.
Entrepreneurs, when they have to create a new reality,
Mm-hmm.
you can't operate by the same rules and create a new reality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So this is a shift that has happened where a new reality has been created.
Yeah.
Now, are you a person who's going to wait for somebody else to make the rules in the new reality? Or are you going to make the rules in the new reality? What I mean by that is, have you been part of any kind of a relief effort? Tsunami relief or flood relief, any kind of a relief effort?
No, not really.
Not really. Okay. So if you were part of a relief effort, what typically happens is first there's chaos, complete chaos, right? Nobody knows what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Nobody has any clue, right? Everybody's waiting for somebody else to do something.
Yes.
Right? Then somebody says, okay, you know what? I am going to pack 5 kg of rice and 2 kg of dal, and I'm going to make 10 packets, and let's go deliver it here. Right?
Yes.
The moment one person says that, suddenly somebody else says, hey, I'll come with you for delivery. Then somebody else says, oh, but where do we deliver it?
Yes.
And somebody else says, where will we get more after these 10 packets are over?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you can start saying, look, I will take care of the delivery for 10 people. But by the time I come back, why don't you figure this out? And suddenly you start seeing this network of people start working together in a very, very nice way. And I've seen this many, many times, right? And it's beautiful how suddenly, somebody says, oh, I know the shop that has supplies. Anyway, they cannot sell now. Let me go tell that uncle and get 100 kg of rice, right? And we'll pack it and we'll give it and we'll figure out how to pay him later because he's my uncle.
And don't forget, Prasanna, that the people who are affected will also come out.
Yeah.
And they figure out things too. They say, I have this, I don't have that. I know my neighbor has that. And so, I know that we have like leftover sugar, let's make kheer. I mean, so again, let's not fall in. I mean, anybody you're trying to help, the world has changed for you, it's changed for everyone.
But
that means all of you can shape it.
Yeah, let me give them another example. In the current situation, actually in Bangalore, one particular area of the people require help, but a lot of people are reaching that place to help them. So you need to even streamline the help also. It's like, okay, this area require help, these 3 people will go. Another area require help, actually different 3 people will go there. Otherwise, what happens is all the 10 people reach the same area to distribute the food, then it's not properly equally distributed. So there is one guy who created actually the sequence system where queuing system saying that, okay, help request came from this area, these 3 people will go. So that way actually it's nicely built in the last 2, week back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, absolutely. What Kesava is saying is absolutely correct, because when things change this drastically and this quickly, everybody has to be an entrepreneur, right? What that means is everybody has to act, and that's really the key. So the real, like the official entrepreneurs end up usually coordinating all these little entrepreneurs who are all trying to do things. That is a task to be done. But going back to your question, I don't think you should worry, is it the right time or the wrong time? You really have to say, what can I do today? But be prepared that things can change. And then you can see you can start thinking about who else is doing, who else can I work with, so that we can actually shape the changes that are coming. So it's not about only building your product and going online. It is about continuing to build the crazy quilt of stakeholders while you are sitting at home on Zoom.
Okay. Saras, I think we don't have a time for 2 more questions, but can we make it very quick? Actually, Premjit, make it very quick.
Oh, Premjit, my friend.
Hi. Hello. Thanks, Keshav.
Yeah, I cannot do something an IIMB workshop without hearing from you. I was literally going to ask where you are.
Hi. How are you, ma'am? It's so nice to see you after a long time.
Yeah, I wish I could see you too.
Yeah. So I have a question that we've been hiring interns from colleges in Bangalore, but certain times it doesn't work out. So I was thinking of basically reaching out to, if you can get the interns from the foreign universities, especially in US, for some tech developments. How we can reach out to them, and what would be the cost, if at all it is possible?
Keep making an ask. So the first thing is, why would you ever pay an intern? That's my first question. I would do some kind of a competition, right? And the internship is the reward. That's what you want to do locally. So you get the best people coming in, right? So, and the reward could be that once they finish the internship, you're going to pay for their tuition for the next year or something. So it cannot be that you're hiring them, when that means you're paying upfront and everything's on you if they don't work out. So the first thing you have to do is you have to create like a self-selection process by which you are offering this. If they do well, then they will get the, and then in the back of your head, you make sure you're going to pay all of them anyway, but don't hire. That's the first thing. The second thing is the same kind of thing you can work in US universities as well. I would say reach out. I mean, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to any professor, depending on what you. So computer science professors. There are lots of computer science professors of Indian origin, but you don't even have to worry about it. You can literally write to them, think about, maybe do a 2-minute video, tell them what you have accomplished and what it is happening, and whether their students will be interested. Just ask whoever is interested, because there are lots of students interested in working globally these days, and they're particularly interested in India and China. So, definitely reach out to me, but think self-selection. Put something out there that people are calling you, so you're not calling everybody all the time.
Okay, last question, Anushriya.
Yeah, hi. So actually, I really like the session you were taking. So I wanted to ask you now, like, what should I be doing at present? I actually have a family business, and it's a lingerie business, and I'm handling the online sales of it. Since due to COVID, my manufacturing unit is closed at present. All my employees are like below the poverty line, you could say. So I can't really ask them for help, and I have to help them with the survival as well. And I know like a majority of the audience or my targeted customers are online, but because we are not dealing with the essentials, so at present I was just selling my products on Amazon, Flipkart and Paytm, and all three of them are not delivering my products, and they are showing it as undeliverable. So according to you, what should I be doing so that I can have something, because at present we have this income, and since we don't know like how long this would go on, so any suggestions from your end?
Okay, the first thing I would ask you is, if you're selling through Amazon and places like that, you probably don't know who is buying your, do you know who is buying?
Yes, we do get the customer data whenever we sell the products, so we know, and majority of it is
go to the customers and set up a fund for your employees and give them discounts. When COVID is over, they'll get discounts. Ask them to literally raise money through your customers. You'll be surprised how many people will A, give away money, and B, pre-order your goods. Pay ahead of time for the next 2 years, and then they'll get a rebate. So if it normally costs 1,000 rupees, you are saying that you will get it for 800 if you order 3 years worth in advance, right?
Okay.
Something like that. So
Yeah,
really go ahead and raise money. You'll be surprised. And also set up a non-profit thing and ask customers to just tell them this exact same thing that you told me.
Yeah,
All right.
so actually there's a site called savelocal.in, savelocal.in. That's one of our startups that are set up. Upeka
Okay.
startup is that are set up, so disclaimer, right?
Mhm.
And they're literally doing exactly this for all kinds of local businesses.
Fantastic.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Yeah, Saras, one last question from this thing. What stage does one quit their current job and work full time on their idea?
That's a very easy one. First of all, it depends on whether your spouse is going to divorce you if you leave the job, okay, which is not affordable loss, hopefully. So first thing, you can start a company while you are doing full-time job. So negotiate and say nights and weekends or whatever, or you're going to go move to a part-time job, you can do that. Now, if the spouse and other people are supportive and you are just a little bit nervous, one of the ways you want to think about it is you want to grow the business to such an extent that it is a pain not to work on your business. It seems a stupid thing to work, right? So you have to grow the business to the point where it makes sense. It does not make sense for you to continue on the job. That's another way to decide it. And the third way is to literally say, can I afford to take 6 months off and try it? So leave the job. If you're in a thing where you can come back and get a job, maybe the job will pay less. So there are multiple ways you can make this decision. But most importantly, you don't need to leave your job to start a company. I mentioned this earlier, but I'll say it again. A third of successful ventures are started by people who are in full-time jobs.